Hello, everyone, and hope you are doing well. We're super excited to be here today and update you on a few things we have been working on for the Apollo Crypto DAO over the past several weeks. My name is Matt Johnson, and I'm part of the development team that is building out the utility for the Apollo project. I'm joined today, as always, by Zach McClary, who runs product and development for our company. How you doing, Zach?
Doing good, Matt. Hey, guys. Good to see you.
Yeah, we're excited. There's a lot of work that's been done over the last couple months now since the state of the DAO. And we'd also like to say we're just also joined in spirit by Caleb. He's not on the stream tonight, but he supports our brand and creative side, and he sends his best to the community and looks forward to connecting in the near future with everyone. So a little background, we launched Apollo last year with an initial focus on enabling creators. We gave away hundreds of thousands of dollars in support of a cause that we're super passionate about, and we've learned a ton along the way. Most importantly, we built a great base platform to expand our true passion as developers, which is gaming. If you're interested in more details about the evolution and roadmap of what we've been building, I recommend that you check out our State of the DAO address on our YouTube site and our ever-growing Trello board roadmap. You can find the links to both in the description below. Today's presentation will be in a similar format to what we did for the State of the DAO earlier this year. We will present the information here, then we encourage everyone to join our Discord or Telegram to discuss or ask us any questions. Links to our socials can also be found in the description below or at our site, apollocrypto.org. The focus today is around the ecosystem strategy of Apollo and how the utility will operate and benefit the various stakeholders. So it only makes sense for us to start out with a clear definition of who this project aims to serve and what interests them. After that, Zach will discuss the Apollo MOONBASE gaming initiative and our NFT strategy that is currently underway. We'll look at the core features being developed by the team and give everyone a sense of where it's going over the next several months as we move towards a playable alpha. I'll then round out our discussion going over the architecture and flow of the application, then touch on partnership opportunities that exist now and in the future for the Apollo MOONBASE. We are still very committed to a revenue-generating platform that benefits all the stakeholders in Apollo. There's some super exciting stuff brewing for the future of Apollo, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. Before you start any strategy for a project, it's important to know and understand the people it will serve. For Apollo, we have broken that down into 5 main groups. We have taken our experience in the project to date, done a ton of research, talked to individuals, and leveraged our past gaming experience to create personas for each of these stakeholders, because we want to design a system that keeps our primary users in focus and filter everything we develop through their needs. First, of course, is the Apollo token holders. These are the lifeblood of the project, the people that have supported our vision and development efforts over the past year plus. They supported the protocol with their efforts and strive to increase the value of the project. Their persona represents the expanding utility and value growth of the project long term. Next is gamers. That's our core focus now. We want to bring in an audience that cares about engagement and competition and reward them for their skill. Their persona represents ease of access and ownership of their content and data. They are looking for something different and unique they could show off their skills on and benefit from that. Third is crypto communities. Some of our more successful engagements during year one were partnerships with groups like the Regulars and Dankbots. We love creator communities, and we don't want to stop there. We are building a unique platform to collaborate with other projects for discovery, promotion, and mutual benefit. Their needs revolve around discovery of new holders and retaining them through unique engagements. Next is brand and sponsors. As the ecosystem grows, it will attract more brands like Center from our biggest sponsor contest in 2022 and give them access to a unique type of crypto and gamer consumer. We have designed ways for them to own real estate on the Apollo MOONBASE and also issue missions that benefit their brand and reward their own players. Their persona centers around attracting a specific set of eyeballs and finding ways to monetize while creating new content for their followers. And last but not least, developers. And I just don't mean our core team here supporting the Apollo development, but future game developers for the platform and other developers that want to take up and develop utility around Apollo. We believe in decentralization and welcome others to step up and take the helm of development as well. This group wants to pioneer new trails and have a unique offering that finds ways for their games to reach new audiences. I'm sure there are others and subsets of these groups, of course. But let's keep this streamlined for now to have a common language for what we want to build. When we look at a feature, we filter it through this list and determine what value it has for them.
Thanks, Matt. Now let's get into the meat of our presentation, Project MOONBASE. Here you'll see a brief look into a couple of the stages we built for testing basic game mechanics. You can see the art direction we went with is more of a retro pixel style. While this may look simple, there are a lot of things you can do with the modern game engines, like lighting, camera effects, to elevate the look and the feel. We have a library we are working with that allows us to procedurally generate maps. This means that we can always be generating new map layouts for players to use and own without having to hand design them before release. For an example of this process, you can check out No Man's Sky. It's a game with an infinite universe that builds worlds as players venture into uncharted territory. And of course, we want to enable users who are not into crypto or NFTs to be a part of the game. So there will be levels of engagement that we'll talk about later, so that more of the game will be open. So that more of the game will be open to people who have committed more to the project. We want to make sure you're getting a foot in the door of all potential new Apollo holders. As Matt mentioned before, all of our progress, including recent success, what's being QA'd, and what is in development, and what will be in the pipeline, can be tracked in our public Trello board. The number one goal for the game is for it to be fun. As simple as that sounds, we can spend hours trying to make sure the economics, branding, etc. are all solid, but it won't matter if the game isn't fun. So that's our primary focus in early development, creating gameplay loops that are fun to play. Then we can create around that. So if you take a look at the Trello board, you can see progress on tasks for things like combat or even just auditory and visual effects. The second thing we need to prove out is that we can integrate with the Web3 ecosystem. This means working on user stories like, I want to connect my wallet so that I can mint new or upgrade current NFTs, or I want to be able to retrieve the information about NFTs I hold. Currently, we have covered the necessary Web3 stories for the MetaMask Unity SDK by supplementing it with the Ethereum library, which is the standard for C# and .NET Web3 development. Next up, we'll work on user stories around Wallet Connect wallets. So let's talk about the game. Keep in mind, this doesn't mean we won't be working to incorporate other games we've worked on into the Apollo crypto ecosystem. These images here are actually from an unreleased project that we've been building, an RPG that blends the IRL world into a post-apocalyptic future. A massive piece of the Web3 gaming sector is leveraging NFTs and empowering users with ownership. We want users to be able to own characters, spaces, identities, inventory, etc. on NFTs. We even want to have the ability to combine different data into the same NFT and add new functionality to our NFTs. In this list here, you can see user profiles as NFTs. This is probably what I'm most excited about. Your profile can hold information like a username. Maybe it can hold information on the guild you're a part of. It could reflect the experience or level you've earned, or even can hold or reflect the achievements of the profile. The big thing is we want people to be able to improve the NFTs they hold in-game. Another concept we're really excited about is owning arenas. We want our users to be able to have arenas that they can enforce their own rules. This could be a toll to enter the arena. They could gate entry based on a characteristic of a player's profile, or the space could be set up to be more social than competition. To accomplish our lofty goals, we need some flexibility with our NFTs. Many of you are, I'm sure, aware of the immutability of smart contracts and that there is no simple way to update them. To give us that pathway for updates, we have completed a POC, or proof of concept, for ERC 1967, the transparency proxy pattern. For more information, please check out our latest blog on the apollocrypto.org website. While we want to enable our users to own their game data, we understand how gas on the Ethereum chain can be cost prohibitive. To lessen that hurdle for gamers, We will be using message signatures for authentication and authorization of actions, just like we did in the past with our creator contest. We also don't want to exclude anyone who has already joined the Apollo community and is loyal to a certain wallet. But because the Web3 gaming space is so new, we have to be very careful about vetting libraries for wallet connections. We started by proving out all basic Web3 use cases with a MetaMask wallet, and now have turned to user stories around Wallet Connect.
Great. Thank you, Zach. It's so exciting to see life breathed into this concept through the prototype and other technical efforts that are setting us up for this long-term success. So let's talk about architecture for a bit. And when I say architecture, I'm meaning how the ecosystem flow is designed to work. Basically, how Apollo moves into the gaming platform, what can be done with it there, and how a user will eventually move it out of the system. Let's first take a look at this from the perspective of a new user. As you know, we have been building onboarding tools to help make the process of obtaining a wallet and swapping for Apollo as seamless as possible. That effort really plays into what we want to accomplish for bringing new holders into the gaming ecosystem as well, before they make the step into Web3. We think it's important to give them a piece of the experience for free. Free to play is a powerful concept in the gaming world, and we have proven it as well with the voting platform last year when we opened it up to email registered voters. Our plan is to allow anyone to register for a MOONBASE account for free, no crypto wallet required, and play a limited portion of the application. This activity would be supported by third-party and sponsor ads. This approach removes a great deal of friction from the onboarding process and allows us to start a dialogue with potential holders through direct marketing strategies by having them sign up to play for free. In addition, we will contribute a portion of their ad revenue proceeds to the DAO, which will support the missions prize pools, which we will discuss shortly. Our goal here is to make a system that allows players to engage and learn about Apollo in a free-to-play environment while benefiting those who are fully engaged as holders in the ecosystem with prize pools supplemented with revenue from ads. Okay, now let's look at the same user who has been playing games for free on the MOONBASE and who has also been receiving direct marketing about the value and opportunity of the gaming ecosystem. They have decided they want to become a holder and participate in one of our multiple engagement tiers. We are designing a number of ways users can get into the Apollo token. They can, of course, use Uniswap or transfer from a centralized exchange, but they can also use our new onboarding system through Apollo Swap, which will convert USDC or ETH, for example, to Apollo for a small fee. We are also designing NFT passes that will allow people who want to benefit from a custom avatar and data storage and combine that with the virtual currency to be used in the ecosystem. This can be extended to sponsors and partners that want to publish their own NFTs in exchange for the currency or other benefits in the game. The opportunities here are endless. Of course, existing and future DeFi Apollo holders will be ready to enter the ecosystem without having to convert or buy any other NFTs if they don't want these additional features. Once a user has the Apollo or NFTs in the wallet, they will need to connect it to the MOONBASE application and their MOONBASE user account, then securely sign with their wallet to transfer tokens to the DAO. This creates a blockchain record of the deposit, and because we are sending funds directly to the DAO, there will be no tokenomics triggered for the transaction. The funds are stored in the central repository that the community votes on, not a random developer wallet. This creates a new metric of total value locked, or TVL, for tokens allocated within the utility. The user is then credited a virtual currency, which we are calling Apollo Moon tokens, or AMTs for short. This virtual currency will be used for all engagements in the ecosystem, like missions, playing leaderboard games, or head-to-head competitions. The funds are stored one-to-one in the user's MOONBASE account and on the DAO to ensure that currency is always available when exiting the ecosystem. If you deposit 1 million Apollo tokens into the DAO through the MOONBASE system, then you get 1 million AMTs to use in the game. So our user now has AMTs in the MOONBASE ecosystem. What exactly can they do with them? Our initial engagements will center around missions and leaderboard competitions. Missions are designed like Radiant quests for both gamers and non-gamers that want to participate. One of the questions we have fielded from stakeholders is, what if I'm not a gamer? We hear you, and similar to what we did with the D-Work missions last year, we want to have an aspect of the Moonbase that will allow users to benefit from supporting the growth of the protocol outside of gaming competitions. Examples of this might be recruiting new holders or players, engaging with our social platforms, and eventually supporting the growth of the ecosystem by even designing game levels or content. We are a creator platform at our core, after all. And remember, those missions pools from the ad revenue I spoke about earlier, that and the tokenomic transaction volume will be the core basis for a weekly rewards pool for users completing tasks. Each task will have a certain point value, and that will equate to a percentage of the pool each week. The other core engagement will be leaderboard competitions for our mini games. We are also designing some multiplayer head-to-head competitions, but those are much more complex and costly to start, so leaderboards were an obvious first choice. Much like a classic arcade, players will spend a small amount of their AMTs to engage in our games for a score. That score will be ranked on a leaderboard, and the top players will receive AMT payouts each week when the leaderboards are reset. The skill-based rewards pool for these leaderboard competitions will be a portion of AMTs collected. A percentage of that collection will also go towards progressives, which we'll discuss on the next slide. As you probably guessed from the dev diaries, the first mini game we are developing is a survival shooter mechanic. How many enemies can you kill in 3 minutes, or even a mode for how long you can survive? We promise it'll be fast-paced, fun, exciting, and very interesting for ongoing play. We also have other genres in design for less action-minded players. So now our user is a MOONBASE gaming pro. They're doing weekly missions, placing on the game leaderboards, and earning AMTs each week. What are the other opportunities here? We are designing a progressive payout system based on several engagement metrics. This basically means that players will be rewarded at random times with bigger payouts for their play, skill, and work within the MOONBASE. This will help keep users engaged and incentivize their efforts and keep them and retain them in the MOONBASE. But there will be time when players decide they want to leave for one reason or the other. We'll, of course, try to incentivize them to stay with points, power-ups, and other benefits, but ultimately it's the user's choice to move in and out of the MOONBASE as they wish. When exiting, we will charge a small tax. Don't forget there are no transfer tokenomics, either in or out of the DAO, for growing the prize pool and for a burn of AMTs to ensure there's always a surplus in the system. The user will sign the transaction, pay the gas, and the AMTs will be burnt in exchange for Apollo by the DAO and deposited back in the user's wallet. I mentioned before that we wanted to design an engagement around our utilities to have as much inclusion outside of game players as possible. Now let's take a look at the entire engagement roadmap and how it supports the stakeholders we mentioned earlier. Just being a DeFi Apollo holder outside of the MOONBASE gives you the opportunity to vote on DAO initiatives, vote in contests, and receive reflections. Moving up the engagement stack, we have introduced the concept of missions now. These are for the people that want to earn rewards for their efforts in supporting and growing their project beyond just holding. D-Work is an area we plan on ramping up later this year for those that want to operate outside of the MOONBASE. And then, of course, the MOONBASE missions will earn you points to the prize pools and for AMTs each week. One of the challenges in voting utility last year was the lack of engagement between contests and the fact that voters only had a singular activity to perform. This approach gives users much more opportunity to get involved. The next type of engagement will be game players directly in the spotlight, competing each week in leaderboard competitions by spending AMTs to play or eventually wagering those AMTs against other players in multiplayer engagements. This also drives opportunity for the progressives for the more competition-focused users. Next on the stack, we have Own. We briefly touched on the concept of arenas earlier in this presentation, but this is the area I'm most excited about. Not only will arenas represent the physical areas of the MOONBASE where competitions will happen, but we have designed a way for third-party sponsors, brands, and other crypto projects to own a piece of real estate on the MOONBASE. What exactly does this mean? We will work with each of these sponsors to create a custom map and other unique items and mechanics within the game. When players compete in leaderboards or in head-to-head competitions in their arena, they will receive a portion of the AMTs that are spent or wagered. This also gives brands exposure through in-game branding and missions they want to promote for their interests. So think of the MOONBASE not only as a play-to-win platform, but also as a platform for brand and token discovery, as well as revenue generation. Our intent is to pilot this program with a handful of brands later this year and refine it where necessary so ownership can be an opportunity for all holders. Imagine a system where users are building content for the ecosystem and monetizing it through their own arenas. Having all this in place then enables us to move on to the next base camp in 2024, the SDK for third-party developers to create new game modes and experience to keep the MOONBASE fresh and reach new groups of gamers that we can turn into holders. Okay, now let's round out the conversation with what we see as a partnership opportunities moving forward. Last year, we explored various opportunities with the content sponsors, including Center, The Regular, and Dankbots. These range from fully sponsored series of contests to just branding on our voting site. We were able to get a ton of experience learning and data on how we want to approach partners and moving forward with the gaming ecosystem. The big takeaways were the free-to-vote mechanic and focusing on brands that are more centric to crypto, including other complementary projects. For 2023, we have already announced a partnership with the Tyrant Project that has expressed interest in gaming and how Apollo can support a system that gives them exposure and opportunity without having to dive into the complex world of custom game development. You see where I'm going here. There are likely a ton of projects that want gaming opportunities for their brand, just like we have seen over the past few decades with brands like WWE and FGTV. If there is a good way for them to carve out space in gaming and benefit their project and ours, it seems like a win-win. Well, I won't be cliche here. We are at various stages of this type of partnership with a few other brands as well. So stay tuned over the next few months for the information on those. Much like the decentralization of work and missions for the project, we hope to expand that into identifying future pilot partners for real estate in the MOONBASE ecosystem. There will be the pioneers of Web3 engagement where everyone wins. Okay, we have covered a lot today, but let's wrap it up with a high-level review. Zach has taken us through the review of the MOONBASE application design and our progress on the prototype over the past several weeks since we started. We also reviewed our NFT approach and the ways we feel it will benefit different types of stakeholders and brands who want exposure and opportunity within Web3. Then I covered the architecture of how Apollo flows into the MOONBASE, how it's converted into virtual currency or AMTs and stored, and how it moves back to the holder wallets as Apollo. Then we finished up discussing what we see as partnership opportunities later this year for our Arenas pilot program. We will have more details on that as we progress the partnership program forward after prototyping. So the obvious question is, when? To quote some of the great developer shops, the answer is when it's ready. All joking aside, there's a lot of truth to the fact that it's more important to get it right than to deploy it too fast and miss something fundamental that hurts the offering. That being said, we know the holders want something directional. And you all know how important meeting commitments and staying true to our word is to us. When we spoke at the State of the DAO, I mentioned we had a few off-the-shelf games we were exploring. And as you can see from this presentation, we have chosen a more expanded ecosystem plus custom game route. We feel this better represents the spirit of Web3 and what we're trying to accomplish. We still have a ton of accelerants and code we have already written for other projects, but we just didn't want to slap a crypto label on something we had done before and call it a success. We still see the opportunity to get alpha users engaging with the Apollo games and earning Apollo in the late summer to early fall. This will be instrumental in helping us test the flow and mechanics before we deploy to a public beta. So still on track, even though the idea has gotten significantly bigger. This is largely in thanks to the extended efforts and great ideas flowing from the community and our dev team. We appreciate your time today and thank everyone in the community for your continued support. We get up and build each day because we realize the exciting future of content ownership. Please join us on our Telegram or Discord to continue the conversation and hope everyone has an amazing day. Thank you.